All right, I'm going to stir the pot here and give you guys some statements, and you can react to it. Didn't really know what to call this segment, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be stirring any pots. All right, first one. I don't know how much longer I have to give this disclaimer. This is not an endorsement of Deshaun Watson, the person. It's an endorsement of Deshaun Watson, the player. First, stirring the pot comment. Deshaun Watson is the steal of fantasy drafts. Would you like to react, or would you like me to explain?
Where is he being drafted?
Somewhere around QB 10. You know, I was looking at Fantasy Pros rankings right now. I know where he goes in our drafts. I'll tell you.
I think he's even after. He goes even after that.
He went in round 10. He went just before Aaron Rodgers. He went after Dak Prescott. But he goes so much later than guys like Justin Herbert, who went in round 5. Justin Fields, round 5. Lamar Jackson, round 6. Let's see. Trevor Lawrence, round 6. And then round 10. There were probably some quarterbacks in between that. But round 10, Deshaun Watson, I think he's the steal of fantasy drafts.
I would prefer you explain first because I don't want to steal your thunder, Adam, because I know going into this August, me and you are going to have a lot of battles for this Browns offense because I'm completely in line with you on Deshaun and this entire offense. Well, the passing game at least. So I'll let you explain your side first. And I think maybe
it's really easy. I don't care about what happened last year. I think he understandably was bad after not playing for almost 2 seasons. And before that, he was QB6, and QB6 per game, 3 straight seasons on a run-heavy offense. 2 of those years were with DeAndre Hopkins. 1 of those years was without DeAndre Hopkins, and he threw for almost 5,000 yards. He's going to run for about 500 yards. You know, he was on pace for that again last year. I just think he's being penalized for playing really poorly last season. I don't think that's Deshaun Watson. I think he's probably still just as good as he was in his prime, which is one of the best quarterbacks in football and one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy. The end.
Yeah, I think when you said he was QB6 or whatever.
In 6 point, yeah.
Those were seasons without Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. I think you have to account for at least a little bit of risk that he doesn't just bounce back to what he was now 3 years ago. So I don't think it would be prudent to rank him exactly or draft him exactly where he was finishing in the past. I don't have much reason to hope that he's going to be better than he was in Houston. You said it was a run-heavy offense in Houston, but there have been few play callers more run-heavy than Kevin Stefanski in the NFL. So I think if the upside's QB5 and the downside is the worst quarterback in the NFL, which is what we saw last year, I think that we should probably rank him somewhere around QB 10 or 12.
So my case for loving Deshaun Watson, and I think Heath is right when you look at it from the 30,000-foot view. There's so much more risk than we're probably signing Adam and getting so excited about him.
Why is Heath right about that? I think Heath is dead wrong about him. His downside being the worst quarterback in football. His downside is not what we
fantasy.
Saw last year.
No, his down
QB 12 because he's going to run.
You're saying his floor
has to be a
is
little
higher.
lower.
His floor is higher than what we saw from him last year.
100%.
I think so too.
I believe that wholeheartedly. Yes.
But I think one thing that I'm focusing on here, which is why I'm very excited about him, is I think we will see a lot, and this is not going to be baked in the projections. It's going to be a little bit of guesswork, but I think we're going to see a completely different style of offense with the Browns moving forward. Despite what Kevin Stefanski's tendencies have been, despite what really he is at his core. Everything I've read behind the scenes there is ever since new management took over, they were very analytics driven and analytics heavy. And they believe that to win in the NFL, you have to throw the football X amount of times every game, X amount of times over the course of a year. And I think we're finally, and we've seen that bear out in all the moves they made. This massive deal for Deshaun Watson, then trading for Eli Moore, re-signing David Njoku, trading for Amari Cooper. And we're going to continue to see that moving forward. And you saw it even on their defense, where they didn't sign any interior defensive linemen last year, and they're the worst run defense in the NFL. They don't really believe in running the football and stopping the run. It makes no sense right now because that's all we've seen them do under Stefanski. But I think we're going to see the change, and this is year to buy into it before it happens. Full off season for Deshaun Watson to work with his. We were talking about Deshaun Jackson earlier. Full off season for Watson to work with his receivers. Get on the same rapport with Eli Moore. He's already built a rapport with Cooper. He has the same weapons coming back outside of Moore. Offensive line, not what it used to be, but it's transitioning to a pass-first offensive line, I think. And I'm with you, Adam. I think where we're getting the value here is that there's going to be a lot more volume than there was last year and than there was in Houston as well. So that's where I see the upside there with Watson.
Yeah. Only thing I disagree with you, Dan, is they did sign Dalvin Tomlinson to stop the run.
Right. Yeah, they did this offseason sign Tomlinson. That's correct.
But I agree. I think they're going to be more pass heavy. They actually last year they ran a lot more plays than they had in previous seasons. They ranked 7th in plays, and they still were 5th in rush attempts, but they were somewhere around 20th, I think, in pass attempts, which is fine. You just don't want them to be 28th.
Well, yeah. The question is, can you count on I believe it was a 62 play spike from the year before? Like the year before, they were a slow offense in terms of the number of offensive plays they ran. The only reason they were 20th and not 28th in terms of pass attempts last year, not the only reason, but one of the major reasons, was that they ran 1,116 plays, 53 more plays than anybody else. They still threw the ball on less than half of those offensive plays.
Right, but Dan and I think they will be more pass heavy.
That's the thing. It's all projection based. It's hard to, because if you're going to look back and you can, because Stefanski is still there, you're not going to get good numbers for projections on Watson or this entire pass offense. I just think we could see a completely different outlook on how they approach offense at this point.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I do expect them to throw more. I have a hard time going from, I think the highest 17-game pace was last year for Stefanski at 540 pass attempts. And so I could maybe get to 560, 570. Well, maybe it's just a completely different offense though. Those are the things that I often miss.
In Watson's last season in Houston, he led the NFL in passing yards, over 4,900 yards, I believe, or around there. They were 31st in play. No, they were 32nd. They ran the fewest plays in football. They were 23rd in pass attempts.
Wow.
But they threw more passes. Deshaun Watson threw more passes in 16 games that season than any Kevin Stefanski offense has ever thrown in a season.
Oh, really?
544 pass attempts in that 16-game season last year. I believe the Browns threw 540 last year, and that was Stefanski's high.
To be fair on that, though, Stefanski hasn't had a quarterback with the caliber as a thrower of Watson at any point in his career as a coach. Really.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think he throws more.
Do you think Deshaun Watson could be as good of a player with Cleveland as he was with Houston? If I had a concern about that, it would be that Amari Cooper's going to be 29 years old. I think Will Fuller was a terrific player. So the year he didn't have Watson, you had Fuller and Cooks. Does he have the weaponry, I guess, to be as good of a quarterback as he was with the with the Texans, now with the Browns in 2023?
I think so. I don't think Amari Cooper showed any signs of dropping off last year. I know he's 29, which is not entirely old. And I had Eli Moore as a top 20 overall prospect in the 2021 class. I know it's been rocky for him with the Jets, but I think it's mostly just bad quarterback play and not enough balls going in his direction. If we're expecting to see a different style of offense in Cleveland, pass first, pass heavy, I think he could become a big feature too. He's another player who I'm going to be drafting a lot of for sure.
So he had 27-year-old Brandon Cooks. I think that's a fair comparison to 29-year-old Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
We also had Will Fuller.
Right.
Eli Moore. Big drop off there, you think, Adam? I don't know if I see it.
Look, I don't know. I mean, maybe Fuller's not that good, and Deshaun Watson is just what made him good. I don't know. But Will Fuller had
There might have been something else that helped Will Fuller's career.
Yeah.